Environment today on Africa Independent Television. It's a pleasure to know you could join us. Now, this is a program where we x-ray environmental and public health issues that confront humans daily, and we also seek experts' views on how best they can be addressed. I'm still your host, Nkoli Omodu. As usual, I'll take you around the world to bring you environment stories that made the round in the last 1 week, and I will be right back.
Nigeria was once home to rhinos, giraffes, and cheetahs. But due to habitat loss and poaching, they have disappeared. And if illegal bushmeat trade continues, we may lose more. Our lions, pangolins, gorillas, and chimpanzees are all threatened. All these wild animals play a key role in keeping our environment healthy and productive. Don't buy illegal bushmeat from endangered wild animals. Let's work together to protect our natural heritage. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Panic as loud bang linked to explosion rocks Ibadan, southwest Nigeria. There was a loud bang said to be as a result of an explosion in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, on Tuesday evening. A loud bang was heard around Agbowo, Songo, Orogun, and Bodija areas of the city. However, the cause of the explosion could not be ascertained at the time of filing this report. A resident of Orogun saying it felt like a tremor that shook the house.
I was at home around 7:30 in the evening. We just heard the sound, and the sound just immediately sounded once. It was resounding. It was so much. In fact, when I looked up, I saw our ceiling. It has removed.
I was just in the house with my kids, and I just saw the POP ceiling and the roof and everything coming down on us. That was the first thing I saw. There was nothing else. I just had to make sure my kids were fine, and we left the place. I have a lot of injuries. My back, it was a huge fall. Things fell. There were injuries. There were lots of injuries, but at least it was minor scratches compared to people that died and stuff.
Another source in Agbowo area said he heard it was a gas explosion. However, this could not be independently confirmed. Efforts to reach the spokesperson for the State Police Command, Adewale Oshifeso, and the State Fire Service to ascertain what happened failed. Millions of Americans face below zero temperatures as storms bring blasts of Arctic air, snow, and ice. Sub-freezing temperatures across much of the US left millions of Americans facing dangerous cold as Arctic storms left 4 dead and knocked out electricity to tens of thousands in the northwest, brought snow to the south, and walloped the northeast with blizzard conditions that forced the postponement of an NFL game. An estimated 95 million people nationwide faced weather warnings or advisories Sunday for wind chills below 0 Fahrenheit. Forecasters said the severe cold was expected to push as far south as northern Texas, while bitter blast sent wind chill reading as low as -70 degrees in Montana and Dakotas. It takes a matter of minutes for frostbite to set in, the South Dakota Department of Public Safety said in a statement Sunday, urging people to stay indoors.
Neck is helpful. I got 2 sweaters on. Made in Peru, where it must be pretty cold too, and it seems good enough for...
In Buffalo, New York, where snowfall of 1 to 2 feet was forecast, severe conditions led officials to postpone Buffalo Bills-Pittsburgh Steelers NFL playoff game from Sunday to Monday. Winds whipped at 30 mph, and snow was falling at the rate of 2 inches per hour. Workers with shovels and trucks worked to clear snow from the field at Buffalo's Highmark Stadium as the Bills want volunteers eager to help with the shoveling to stay at home and not defy a travel ban on area road. Orelu Afolabi.
An estimated 38.6 million bottles and cans of soft drinks are sold in Nigeria daily, making the country the highest soft drink consuming nation around the world. Excessive consumption of these drinks, which are classified as sugar-sweetened beverages, particularly targeted at children and young adults in the country, has become a major health concern with their attendant health implications. Daniel Panaki resides in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. He drinks 4 bottles of soft drinks every week and says it helps to relax him after a hard day's job. He is unaware of the danger this lifestyle poses to his health.
I don't know much of the harmful effects. What I only know that I need is something that will kill down my thirst for that moment. I don't know the side. All I know is that I'm enjoying my life, I'm pleasant, chilling. And I need more awareness on it. I need more awareness. It's a welcome development.
Like Daniel, many Nigerians also find soft drinks refreshing, with only a few aware of the health risk of their excessive consumption.
Since I get married, my wife complained about it, that it weakened my manpower. So since then, I stopped taking it. Even doctor told me that too much sugar in the body is not good. So since 3 years now, I might be taking both beer, both soft drink. I base in only water or palm wine.
I take it just, it's not, it's not always. I do take them. I don't take it frequently whenever I eat, but I take it once in a day.
My parents, they have diabetes, so they want us anything sugar, more we avoid it. Avoid diabetes and the IPP and so on and so forth.
For Nigeria to achieve its post-COP28 commitment of zero emission by 2060 and the 45% reduction in methane by the Lagos State government, an environmentalist, Ismaila Babatunde, has called for collaboration between government, individuals and civil society groups by marching action with plan in line with the Renewed Hope strategy. His
Excellency, the Executive Governor of Lagos State, has said that he wants to reduce methane emission by 45%. For us at Climate Rider, this is quite ambitious, and this is the kind of commitment that we are expecting from such government officials. But then again, we are in the era of the Renewed Hope, so Renewed Hope has to be matched with action plans. So we intend to engage with the state government through the Ministry of Environment, through the Commissioner for Environment in particular. So for us to give us a detail of their action plan of how they intend to reduce this emission by 45%, and thereby we will now be able to measure the impact and the performance of what they've committed to say they want to do.
Ismaila also called on government to work out on using technology in making clean energy available to the citizens, because about 90 million Nigerians still use firewood for cooking, resulting in about 79,000 carbon-related deaths annually.
We can't just fold our hand and see our loved ones dying from these environmental induced factors. And this is something that we can mitigate with our collective action. We want to see that Nigeria achieve its commitment of net zero emission by 2060. So in achieving this, there is a holistic approach towards it. There needs to be a reduction or total stop of carbon emission, methane emission, greenhouse gases, carbon footprints. We just have to stop all of this. We have to stop it by 2060. So, and this has to do with a process, phases by phases. So for this phase now is in Lagos State, they've made the commitment of 45%. And in Nigeria as a whole, they want to end this greenhouse emission by 2060. So it requires the collective action of each and every one of us. And Nigeria has enormous energy poverty. And 60% of Nigerians don't have access to clean and affordable energy.
He also decried indiscriminate lumbering activities, plastic pollution, the shrinking of the Lake Chad region and its effect on human health.
People use carbon excessively because they do not know the environmental implication, and this thing is really affecting us negatively. It's part of what is fueling insecurity in the country, farmers and others clashes, including even the shrinking of the Lake Chad region. So this is a very big concern for us at Climate Rider, and that is why we've stepped up to we step up our action, bridging the gap and fostering intergenerational solidarity between the younger generation and the older generation. Because for the younger generation, most of them think that, oh, this is how the climate has been. But for the older generation, they attest to the fact that, yes, indeed, the climate has changed. So we are educating the younger generation on mitigation. And for the older one, we are talking to them about adaptation, how they can build resilience for the future, so that the climate change will not really affect them badly. Nigeria is at the tipping point of a climate catastrophe. And climate change is everyone's business. It's not only in the hands of the government, even the individual, the civil society, the business organization. We all have to come together and add our voices to these climate change issues. Climate change is everyone's business, and we must leave no one behind.
The climate change advocate Ismaila Babatunde rode on a bicycle from Abuja to Lagos, helping to increase awareness on the dangers of climate change and the need for increased education on the issue.
Hello, we welcome you to our social media platform for more information about our program Environment Today. On Facebook, you can reach us on Environment Today. On YouTube, subscribe, like, and share every of our episodes on Environment Today. Instagram, it is Environment Today. On Twitter, /Environment Today. And on WhatsApp, you can reach us on +234 8033 356 388. Catch up and do interact with us, and don't miss any of our environmental issues. Like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.
Our music is one of our greatest exports, but our wildlife could be another great industry if we protect it for future generations.
Right now, it's threatened by illegal wildlife trade. So please, report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat.
Because poaching steals from us all.
These are ivories and elephant tusks carved in different shapes of ornaments, ready to be traded for economic gains across borders. What worries the federal government of Nigeria is the insensitivity of the wildlife traffickers regarding the effects of their activities on the ecosystem. Nigeria has a transit route with about 4 major poaching hubs from Congo DRC, the Cameroon, Burkina Faso, and Ghana is faced with the challenge of tightening its borders and coming up with more stringent measures to fight wildlife crime.
If we do not live in a harmonious relationship with other creatures, including even inanimate objects in the environment, we will eventually see the end of planet Earth.
It's a grievous offense to kill our elephants illegally so as to have the tusks, and that anyone caught doing this is going to face the wrath of the law in Nigeria.
Nesria, with the help of her partners, have succeeded in the seizure of about 2.5 tons of ivories and elephant tusks worth over $10 million. The government says the pulverized materials will be used to erect a monument for recreational and educational purposes.
We look at the value of the message you're passing across and the value of saving the remainders of the species. We have a few of our elephants left here in Nigeria. We need to come together to save these and give them a chance to live and reproduce and replenish in their numbers.
We decide to auction. We are promoting the trade. Most of these items will go back to original people that were caught with those items. So it's just like we are promoting the trade. So more elephants will be killed.
Nigeria is signatory to international treaties that fight against illegal wildlife trade. And today, the federal government has simply crushed elephant tusks seized from illegal wildlife traffickers. And the government is using this to send a strong signal to those who deal in illegal wildlife trade, saying simply that the game is over. Nkoli Omaudu.
Welcome. Nigeria is a transit route with about 4 major poaching hubs from Congo Democratic Republic to Cameroon, Burkina Faso, and Ghana, and is faced with illegal wildlife traffickers who take this route to go and deal with their illegal wildlife trade, despite the international treaty that prohibits this. So today on the program, we will be engaging the Chief Executive Officer of Wild Africa Fund on the dangers of illegal wildlife trade and the way out. All right, it's a pleasure to know you're still here with us. It's still Environment Today on Africa Independent Television, a program where we x-ray environmental and public health issues that confront humans daily and also seek experts' views on how best they can be addressed. And today we have on the show as our guest, founder and CEO of Wild Africa Fund, Mr. Peter Knight, who is also an officer of the British Empire. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I know that your organization has been there at the forefront of fighting illegal wildlife trade and trafficking and all of that. How dangerous actually are these activities, and what does the international treaty say about this?
Well, illegal wildlife trade is dangerous in a number of different elements. We've seen this year with all the talk about climate change. There's been a lot more information coming out showing that on the side of the animals, it's not just about keeping forests. We know forests help to reduce climate change, but also they need to be intact, they need to be functioning, they need to have the animals inside them to really absorb the most carbon. So that's one way that illegal wildlife trade can damage our environment. Secondly, we've heard a lot, of course, with COVID and other diseases, and so zoonotic disease, that's disease which come from animals to people, is very, very serious, and that's something which can be transmitted via the illegal wildlife trade. Because these animals, when they're in the wild, are absolutely fine, but when we capture them and we butcher them, then there's a possibility of diseases spreading through that. So we saw with COVID, which now has been pretty much traced back to the raccoon dog, which is a small animal, through the markets, the bushmeat markets in China, obviously shows there's a huge risk of that as well. So there's also a loss from illegal wildlife trade, because you see countries like Kenya and South Africa making millions and millions of dollars every year, creating jobs around wildlife tourism. So if we take all the animals away, we can't bring the tourists, we're also losing money that way.
All right, does that explain why your organization, for instance, Wild Africa Fund, we see the campaign skits all over the place in almost all the television stations in Nigeria, including Africa Independent Television, and on this show as well, Environment Today. So how successful has that campaign been? Because I also know there's a recent survey which you call End a Life Survey.
Yep.
You know, tell us about this.
Well, we were, frankly, delighted by the response in Nigeria. Nigeria has been a major country for illegal wildlife trafficking. It's been the epicenter of illegal ivory and pangolin scale smuggling, for example. And when we started this campaign, a lot of people were not aware of a lot of these things. But we just had the survey results back, as you mentioned, and 85% of people were now aware of the campaign and remembered the campaign. And that's very good for any sort of public awareness campaign. 30% of those people were saying that they would no longer eat illegal bushmeat, which is obviously partly due to the damage to the environment, but also the risk of zoonotic disease. And what was particularly exciting to me was 97% of people under 18 remembered the campaign. So those are very good numbers, and I think it's great credit to yourselves and the whole Nigerian media and the government to actually be able to raise awareness to that extent.
Okay, so last week, I think it was just on Wednesday or Thursday, that Nigerian government through NESRIA, you know, the National Environmental Response Standard Agency, including some partners like the Wild Africa Fund, crushed or pulverized some elephant tusks and ivories said to be seized from illegal traffickers. And some were asking why that exercise was necessary.
Well, this isn't something you can sell. This is ivory that's been taken. It's illegal. There is no legal market in the world now for ivory. So this is not something you can just take and sell. You have to either store it forever or you destroy it. And I think what the government was doing was using this as an opportunity to raise public awareness more about the seriousness of this, and to say to people, you can't traffic in ivory, and if you do, we'll take it very seriously and we'll prosecute you. So this is the first time it's been done in Nigeria, and it's a very positive step from the government to indicate they're stepping up the fight against wildlife crime.
Okay, so let's look at what the international treaty, that's the CITES now, said about
Correct.
this. You know, when there's illegal trafficked, properties, ivory tusks, elephant tusks, and all that are seized.
Yeah.
do they have to be crushed? You said you either keep it forever or you crush it.
Yeah, I mean, CITES does encourage people to dispose of the illegal product, not to sell them. You can't sell it back because that would be illegal. That would be the government acting illegally. But you know, if you keep it, you have to guard it. You know, it could be stolen. It's costs involved for the country. So I think what they were doing with the pulverization is not just obviously removing those costs, but also sending a message to the public to raise awareness about this and say to people, please don't do this in the future.
Okay, back to Wild Africa Fund. You know, recently you launched a new wildlife focused TV series, you know, which you said is for kids.
Yes.
Okay. Can you speak about this?
Yes, Dr. Mark's Animal Show. It's really the first of its kind. Dr. Mark rescues animals from the bushmeat markets, illegally taken animals, and he re-releases them into the wild. And what we've been doing is using those animals that have come into captivity while they're in captivity to help educate children about what's going on. And so we do it with local children, and they ask, very often they have quite a bit of knowledge to begin with, which is great, but then they ask questions about, you know, what does this animal eat, where does it live, what's the threats to it, how can we help? So it's very educational and hopefully entertaining at the same time. And we use filming here, but also we film sometimes where the animals live and things like that. So it's an educational show for kids, hopefully a bit of fun to learn and have fun at the same time.
Okay, so preserving wildlife and keeping them in the wild, really, to many people, if you don't eat this bushmeat, what alternatives are left for you?
Well, I mean, you know, in the cities, which is where our campaigns are focusing, there are obviously the alternatives of regular meat. You know, the chicken has been seen as one of the alternatives. One of the projects we've been involved in is actually providing some chickens to the hunters and then also the sellers so that they can rear free-range organic chicken instead of bushmeat. And the thing about the bushmeat is that it's when the illegal trade, the animals are disappearing. So the reason it's illegal is because it's not sustainable. And so this is not something which can go on for very long. There is also the risk of zoonotic disease introduction, as we've seen, and it seems to be rearing its head more and more occasions. There's been anthrax outbreak recently. You know, there's all kinds of diseases which come. Ebola is from zoonotic disease. So it's not really an option to keep doing that from the wild. It will end pretty soon, or we can switch to something else. And obviously there's other sources of protein, be it fish or chicken, which are healthier and more sustainable.
Okay, I'll let it go now, but not before asking you your visit to Nigeria. What do Nigerians expect to get from that, particularly from the engagement that you are scheduled to have?
Well, we're hoping to talk to the government about a piece of legislation. Under the last administration, there was a law introduced that had its first reading, which was designed by the government, which would really bring Nigerian laws up to date. They're 20 or 30 years old. They're not really up to date anymore. You know, wildlife crime is very often cross-border, and you need the ability to sometimes pursue people across borders, because some of what's going on is people are coming into Nigeria and using it as a trafficking point. So there's a great new law which was introduced by the government, but because of the election, it got held up. So we're really hopeful they're going to reintroduce that and push that through now. And then that would put Nigeria from, let's say, in the relegation zone right up to going for Europe. If I can use a football analogy, that would put Nigeria as a regional leader. So we're hoping to talk to some legislators about that legislation, and hopefully that's something that can go through fairly soon. And then Nigeria can be a regional leader in this.
Now, but being a traffic hub, really, you know, cutting across several African countries, it looks like it's a Herculean task to deal with this, is it?
Well, I've seen things change very, very quickly in this field, and just since I've been coming here the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen customs really stepping up their act. They've made a number of big seizures. They really are taking this very seriously. They've done prosecutions, which was not happening before. They were doing seizures, not prosecutions. That's changed. So we've seen tremendous change. And then when you talk about 85% of people suddenly being aware of an issue, that's incredible, and that's in 2 or 3 years. So I really think in the next 2 or 3 years, if this administration takes this seriously, we can improve the situation dramatically in Nigeria, and also have Nigeria being a leader in the whole region on these issues.
All right, we must say welcome to Nigeria once again.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that you do for wildlife.
Thank you for your raising awareness. It's all about education and awareness. You know, the whole planet, as you know right now, is challenged by these environmental threats, and we've all got to work together to try and solve them.
All right. Okay, the founder and chief executive officer of Wild Africa Fund, Peter Knight, has been our guest on the program for today. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
All right. Up next is our feedback segment for your views and comments regarding the program. Don't forget to hook up with us on all our social media platforms displaying on your screen. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. After that, we'll bring your environment quotes for this week. All right, this is how we'll be wrapping up Environment Today for this week. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll be here with you next week with a fresh package. Until then, please be good. Nkoli Omodo remains my name. Bye for now.